everyone, I'm Ari Simmons. I'm a member of the U.S.A. men's Epee national team, and I'm going to be doing a footwork exercise for you guys today with the Bida Foundation. So our exercise today is going to be focused a little bit on endurance and a little bit on technical footwork. So in order to start, I'd like you to grab a glove and an epee if you have one nearby. And if you don't, it doesn't matter, it's okay. But sometimes it's better to use the epee and glove so that you feel the weight and the grip in your hand, and that way you can translate it to your fencing more easily. So here I am on a fencing strip at a national competition. And if you don't have a fencing strip, it's okay. Find a marker on the ground, like a line or a spot, and you can use that as well. If you're on a fencing strip, find a line, and very quickly, we get started. 30 seconds of simple bouncing in place. With every 2 to 3 to 4 bounces, up to you, you're going to do a half advance forward and a recover. And that's it. 30 seconds. Ready? And go. This is your resting position. So you don't want to be moving too much with your shoulders, and you want to do that half advance and go back. Half advance, go back. You can alternate between going on your heel and sometimes going on your toes. Very common mistakes in this exercise are that somebody is going to go way too heavily onto that half advance. What we're working on here is control. So it's really important not to over exaggerate your half advance forward, because ultimately we're trying to hide our next action when we translate this into our actual fencing. This brings us to the next part of this exercise. Now we're going to be doing a half step forward with an advance and sometimes a half retreat back. Same thing, another 30 seconds, ready, and go. And you can choose half retreat, and sometimes I do a half advance, and you're trying to trick the opponent. You don't want to give a pattern, so sometimes you do 1 and 1, mix it up, and try to have that control so that if for some reason you had to continue the action, you'd be able to do so very, very easily from a balanced position. For example, a fletch. This is important when we translate it to other aspects of our footwork. The next step that we will add to this workout is full steps, full advance, full retreat. From this bouncing, your opponent should not be able to tell a difference if they're looking at your shoulders or your body, whether you're advancing, half advancing, same for retreating or half retreating. This is incredibly important for being able to hide your next action with an opponent. If you're going forward, you want to be able to show your opponent that you're advancing or retreating and able to continue forward off that half step. So now we're going to do another 30 seconds shuffling all 4 of those. Again, this is a moment for you to just be moving, be exercising, and to utilize different steps. Ready? And go. And you see, when I do the retreat and the half retreat, the beginning looks exactly the same. Same thing for the advance and half advance. You want it to be completely hidden from your opponent. That way, let's say I was to invite for a counterattack on my advance, my opponent would attack here and I counterattack. Very simple. All right, now you can take a small break, collect your breath, because you've been doing all 3 of these exercises. Another important thing to note, you're allowed to take some breaks between these, but since they're only 30 seconds, you want to focus a little bit more on just getting your heart rate up. Now we can take an actual break for 1.5 minutes, collect yourself, and plan what's next. So now we're working on fluidity control and change of direction. So what's important here is continuing to do what we've done and add in a little more dynamic movement. So now, again, you're moving, bouncing in place, but now we're starting to add in a little bit more movement in and out. Pretend you're fencing an opponent, and every once in a while, you do that advance, and sometimes you do the half advance. Same thing with the retreats and the half retreats. The only difference now is that we're moving, we're more dynamic, we're using the space that we have, fencing strip or not, and we're going to be doing a final action. Every 3 or 4, we're gonna be doing, let's say, a flesh, a lunge, showing a counterattack. Don't make it too complicated. Choose 1 or 2 and just cycle with it. And we're gonna do this for a minute straight now, because now we're starting to get our heart rate up, our blood is rushing, and we're ready to go. 1 minute. Ready? And fenced. So I'm moving, I'm relaxed, and every once in a while, I do that half advance or full advance, and from one of them, I wanna be able to continue, right? So here I'm just recovering. Eventually, let's say I do that advance and my opponent, imaginary opponent, attacks. Break the distance for a counterattack. Same thing sometimes for that half advance, counterattack. Easy. Now we're just gonna alternate between lunge and counterattack. Same thing with retreat, half retreat, and we go half retreat, lunge. Recover and keep going. You don't have to follow the exact order I'm doing, just start to feel it, just start to feel it. Sometimes you're gonna retreat, half advance, lunge, half retreat, lunge. Showcase your footwork abilities to yourself. Halt. Now from here, we're gonna take another break. Let your body process what you've just done and breathe. As you can hear, I'm even a little bit out of breath here. We're gonna do this exercise one more time, just so you really, really drill it into your mind. All right, our break is up. Now it's time to go again. This time, let's add in a little more movement and a little more half advances and half retreats, all right? And a few more continuations, because we just want to feel the difference between starting an advance, half advance, lunge. Starting that advance, half advance, counterattack. And same thing in reverse. Ready? 1 minute, starting now. You really want to push yourself here and try to have the exact same start of the half advance and the actual advance. That's how you will hide it from your opponent the best. Same thing with the retreat. Push yourself here. We're almost done. Winding down. Push the hardest in the last 5 seconds, just to be ready, and we're done. Now another breather. So I think it's really important, once you've gotten these basic footwork exercises down, to do the best action in fencing. Very, very subjective opinion, it's the flesh. If you're an Epeeist, you should love fleshing. If you don't, it's okay, but I promise you, you will fall in love. So we're gonna incorporate that into the same exact movement pattern. Advancing, retreating, half advances, half retreats, and we're using it to build our flesh. Common mistakes. When we start, our shoulders will go up, our blade might go back. I want you to focus on keeping your shoulders relaxed so that on that advance, half advance, you just drive your tip forward in a smooth arrow, all right? So now we're gonna open it up to 1.5 minutes of movement to account for when you flesh, you have to stop and start moving again, all right? 1.5 minutes, we're gonna do this twice. Ready, set, go. So So again, we're moving, focus on those half advances to look exactly like the start of your advances. Same thing with those half retreats. To hide that flesh, we're working on being smooth and controlled here. Drive your tip. We're holding an epee if you can, so that you can have that actual weight in your hand in practice. Sometimes we're gonna do lunges because we wanna hide shorter attacks and deeper attacks. Really important, follow through. Push yourself here. It's not supposed to be easy. And don't forget, sometimes we can counterattack too. If you're not sweating here, you're not doing it right. All right, so that should be pushing your nervous system, your legs and your focus a lot more. Towards the end of that, you might feel your shoulders tensing up, your hands starting to get tired, your lungs getting tired, and your legs too. As you can see, we're working pretty hard here. So it's important to take your rest here. 1.5 minutes just to breathe. Slow in through the nose, deep exhale through the mouth. And allow that oxygen to re-enter your body, inflate those muscles and make them strong again. We're gonna do this one more time. So it's been pretty hard so far. Good job for staying in there. I think it's definitely not easy. If it's too easy for you, that's good. You can go to the next step. But for most of us, consistency is key. So you want to be repeating this, cycle it into your footwork a couple times a month, maybe once a week if you can. That way you can get that endurance and hidden movements really going. This is important in bouts because in a lesson, we're doing something in one direction, maybe another direction, but it's not really applied to the bout yet. It's very hard to do it straight from a lesson to a bout. The intermediaries between that is your target practice and your footwork. So when we practice it in footwork, we want to practice it the way that we fence. So we're about to go for another 1.5 minutes. Ready or not, here we come. On guard, ready, fence. We start moving again, and you want those advances on the preparation to look exactly like your half advances. Same thing with your retreats and the half retreats. And don't forget, we're building the flesh. Very important. And sometimes we can even throw in a full retreat and then a flesh. Changing direction is killer in this sport. Sometimes counterattacks, we're breaking the distance. Imagine you're hitting the hand or the arm of your opponent, and then the chest on the flesh. You can raise the intensity if it's easy for you. Start to go more intense. The last 30 seconds of the bout, you'll find your muscles start to tense up more, but this will improve over time. These are the most critical moments of the bout. The last 10 seconds, priority. How are you gonna hide it? Sure, you're going back, fleshing your opponent. Same thing, you're pushing them. Half advance, flush. All right, now we have this 1.5 minute break before our final exercise. Now that your blood is really flowing, your muscles are pumping, your brain is feeling that fatigue, we want to focus in on something a little bit more technical, a little bit more challenging for our minds, less challenging for our bodies, because we've pushed ourselves here. Now let's focus in and challenge ourselves. This exercise, you just need to find a line, any line, anywhere. I'm on a fencing strip, so I have the guard line right here. And it's really important at this point. Again, we're not working super hard physically. This is mental. We're just gonna work again on more half advances. So from here, we're gonna stop it on our heel. The goal is for my heel to be where my toe is now. For example, if I'm looking down, my toe is at this line. I want my heel to be on the line when I'm done. All right, we're gonna show it now. That was too short. This was too long. That is almost perfect. That is closer. Oh, that is perfect. Anyways, when you're doing this, you don't want to be looking down at your foot, because proprioception, or the ability to recognize where you are in a certain space and where your body parts are without necessarily looking, is very important in fencing. So you're going to look ahead at your opponent and do this half advance and then see where you are. This was perfect. So now I can move to the next level. The next level is you go half advance, recover, and you want to stop where you started. So if I started here, this is too big of a retreat. Again, half advance, retreat, and then I look down. Once that is done, then I can move to full advance, and same with full advance, full retreat, try to stop where I started. We're just gonna cycle through this exercise a few times, and I'm gonna give it to you. You can always add variations to challenge yourself. For example, rather than just doing it once, getting it right and moving on, if that gets too easy, you can then close your eyes and try to do it. Or try to get it one time, perfect, 2 times, and then move to the next round. There are plenty of different variations you can use to challenge yourself. I'm just gonna run through it one time until I get it correctly once. Could be a long time, we'll see. Ready, and go. We're gonna start with the half advance. Almost there, but I'm gonna be honest with myself, I didn't get it. So we try again. Too far forward. So now I have to tell my body to pull it a little shorter. This is better, almost perfect. Too far, perfect. Now we're gonna do half advance, recover back. Perfect on the first try. So now we're gonna go to full advance. Almost there, but a little too far. Let's try again. A little too short. Too far. This is where you have to relax your mind and focus on your breathing. Too short. A little too short. Let's say this is good enough. Now we go advance, retreat. Almost perfect. One more try. Perfect. Great way to end. So once you've done this, you've not only pushed yourself physically, but once your body has heated up, your heart rate has gone up, you've challenged yourself physically and mentally, we calm down the physical challenge and we work just on challenging our mind. And this is a great way to tie it all together into fencing. It's not just a sport for physical strength and technical execution, but it's also a great challenge for your brain, the physical chess. So now we're gonna move on to the final exercise. From here, I want you to understand that this proprioception, this word we use, is super important in fencing. We want to be able to know where we are in the strip, even when we don't necessarily see or look down. So for this exercise, we're going to be doing from your warning line, a half advance, and then from then, recover, or just start retreating, or recover, retreat, all the way until you think that your foot is on this back line. As you see, I didn't notice that I passed behind it. That would be a touch for my opponent. Let's try not to do that here during the exercise. But that's it. Try to get this correct 3 times, as close as you can to perfect. So we're gonna do that half advance, and then we're just gonna relax, nothing fast at first, just get the feeling of trying to stop when our toe is somewhere in this box. On guard, ready, fence. Point for my opponent, that's tough. Let's try again. Perfect, I'm safe. Now let's get it right 2 more times and we're ready to go. Pretty good, a little bit out of the box, but we're okay. Now for the last one, since this was a little easier, let's speed it up, challenge ourselves. Barely on strip, what a great way to finish. So this is super important in translating into your fencing because you want to know where you are on the strip at all times, all right? Know where you are and you know where your opponent is and you know how to score. All right, so thanks for doing this class. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for being a part of the Bida Foundation. And thanks to the Bida Foundation for having me on as a guest instructor. Happy fencing, best of luck, and you can do it.